Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. I'm your host, David Parra, and today we have a very important subject. We're going to be addressing an important subject. Sometimes it is referred to as advance directives. Sometimes it is called living wills. They call them power of attorneys. And another important topic that I think is crucial is estate planning. You know, you have a home, you don't know what's going to happen, you haven't made any arrangements, you know, when that time, you know, for you to depart, you know, this earth or however we want to express that comes. So there's a lot of issues, a lot of feelings involved, a lot of, but more than that, there's a lot of legal issues. So today, the name of the show is Health. Let your will be known. I wanted to do Let Your Will Be Done. And then I spoke with Maria Rebozo, and she suggested that I change it to Let Your Will Be Known. So either way is fine, right? Let your will be done. Let your will. And, you know, let your will be done. I like it because it's kind of like a biblical concept. Mm-hmm. Let your will be done. And then the interesting thing is that it has the word will, which is always good for playing with words in the English language, right? Today we have Lucia Arteaga from the Attorney General's office. Good morning, Lucia.
Good morning. How are you?
How do you feel addressing this issue?
I feel really good because I feel like the Latino community really needs this. Mm-hmm. Definitely. You know, we always get many requests for the English LCP, which is the Life Care Planning Packet, or the Advanced Directives, but it is very rare when we get the request for them in Spanish. Yeah.
Good. And we also have Gonzalo de Leon. You have another last name. Do you just go by de Leon?
Plata.
Oh, you want the Plata too?
Well, if I don't say that Gonzalo de Leon Plata, my mom will remove me from her
because
trust.
my Facebook.
So let's just make sure that I use the whole thing.
In
or
that
else.
case, I'm David Parra Luna. Then.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, my mom will be like, "Well, where's my name in there?" You know.
How do you feel addressing this issue? I assume you are a financial advisor.
Yes.
And I assume that you get these issues a lot.
It's a passion for me. I'm not an attorney, but it's a passion for me because everything that we built, the financial plan that we built in for a long time, we're not doing for something for the weekend, can be just destroyed like that because this is not taken care of. So pretty much each of my clients, I twist their arms until they have their will and the trust completely done. So it's really, really important as part of as a whole.
You know, one of the things that impressed me a lot is because there's usually this concept that it's a hard conversation, a difficult conversation, because it involves end of life also. But it's not just end of life. There's all kinds of things involved. And then not only that, but guess what? It's not just for viejitos.
Yep.
If you're 18 years old, you can literally do these things for yourself as well. So we have Lupe Solis. Thank you so much, Lupe. And I know that you are, quote unquote, retired. Or actually, you are retired. And I thought of you because just in our brief conversations, I know you've gone through some of these processes. And just briefly, we're going to get to them in deeper fashion later. But how was that experience of having to deal with these things?
Well, first, let me start by saying my full name is Maria Guadalupe Gomez Villalobos de Solis.
Oh.
But as I remember when we were young parents worrying about what would happen to our children if we didn't have our affairs in order. Right. Later on, planning for, you know, not only for ourselves, but also for our legacy to them. Right. And so I believe all these concepts, ideas are very important for people to think about.
Right. You know, and I'm encouraged because just learning and just in doing a little bit of research and talking to people, I learned this fact that you don't have to be an old person to think of these things. You can be 18 and you can start doing your things. And so that kind of makes the conversation a little easier because why? You can just do it yourself and let your parents or grandparents know that you're doing it. And that's how you can probably start the conversation. We have Alejandro Perez as well. He is an attorney and you have your own firm. So welcome, and just briefly tell us how you feel about this issue, what you deal with in your work.
Absolutely. My name is Alejandro Perez, and thank you, David, for having me here today, and to all of my co-panelists. I'm an estate planning attorney, so I assist people with developing customized estate plans. And you're right, it's not just for death, it's planning. Estate planning means planning for also when we're not able to make our own decisions, and making sure that our will is known exactly, so what our plans are. So that's what I focus on, and I think it's really important to be here today specifically because Hispanics and Latinos generally, culturally, we do a great job of caring for one another. We don't do such a great job at planning. So
it's interesting that we work so hard to make the money,
right?
But then we don't plan to secure it, to let our will be known.
So something that we want to consider is an estate plan is basically like very detailed instructions about if I'm no longer able to make my decisions, this is what I want. If I pass away, this is how I want things to be distributed. And this is how I want my body to be disposed of, and this is how I want my belongings to be given away. And the reason that that's important is because you don't want to put people in a time of grief in a position where they're making decisions. It can lead to family problems. It can lead to fighting. It can lead to relationship deterioration. It could lead to lawsuits. So you just want something, and I tell my clients, you want to leave something, just a map in place. It tells them specifically what you want and what your wishes are.
This is a full hour show, and we want to have a conversation on basic things and then go deeper as we move on. So can we talk about terminology first? And let's jump, anyone can jump in. We're talking about, Lucia from the Attorney General's office, power of attorneys. Can you kind of explain, and anyone, the different types of legal documents that are involved in this kind of planning?
So what our office has, it's called the Life Care Planning Packet, but that's just what we call it. But it's also called the Advanced Directives for Health.
Advanced Directives?
Correct, for healthcare planning. And what that consists of is the power of attorney for healthcare, the power of attorney for mental care.
Okay, so you have a power of attorney for two different categories.
Absolutely.
Is this always the case, or can it be combined?
No, it's always the case. So there's they're different for a reason.
Okay.
For the healthcare is only when you're not able to communicate. Maybe you're in a coma. The mental one is for people like if they're not there 100% with all
so
their
they
senses.
could be physically perfect, but then they may have some problems in their thinking, remembering things, etc.
Like
and that's
Alzheimer's, dementia.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
That's right.
So that's the power of attorney. How about a living will? What is the difference between a power of attorney and a living will?
So you have the healthcare power of attorney, which tells you, or you get to choose your two representatives on who you want to make those decisions. The living will tells you what decisions you want, like artificial fluids, CPR.
But this is strictly related to healthcare, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. Yes, that's right.
Perfect. So we have a power of attorneys, two kinds,
Yes.
the medical and the mental.
Yes.
And then the living will, which goes into, so the power of attorney is more like designating an agent to a representative?
Yes.
Perfect. And then the living will, it could be a little bit more detail as to what you want in your in case of end-of-life care, etc.
Yeah, because the healthcare power of attorney, you're going to choose who that person is who's going to be making the decisions, but that person also needs to know what decisions can be made when you're no longer able to communicate those decisions.
Got it. Can you literally write your own? Is there a legal form, or can just people make up their own or find one that they, like in the Attorney General's website, etc.? Is it just one form that everyone has to use, or no?
No, because there are different organizations, different hospitals that create their own advanced directives.
Okay.
As long as they use the statutes, because the statutes have certain terminology that need to be included to make it valid.
Right. Okay. So I believe now we can come to Attorney Perez. I see here two realms, two categories, two fields, if you will. The health one and the money one. Do you agree with that kind of?
For planning for your incapacity, there's the what's called a financial power of attorney, which allows someone to make financial and business decisions on your behalf.
So a power of attorney on the health, mental side would look different then, or it doesn't have to be?
Well, there's actually 3 powers of attorneys.
Okay.
So there's the financial, which is when you're not able to make your own decisions.
Right.
And you appoint an agent to make your decisions. That has to be very detailed.
Okay.
Because, for example, if you have an IRA account and that IRA, the power of changing the IRA account is not listed in your power of attorney, the bank is going to deny it. Right. So that needs to be very detailed. The other one is the health power of attorney, which she was mentioning, which is allowing someone to make health decisions on your behalf. And with that, you also need a HIPAA waiver. And lastly, the mental health is, and I don't know if you guys do this, but that allows someone to put you in a facility without your permission for an extended period of time.
Right.
Should you need to be placed in a facility.
Okay, we're going to have to go on break and we'll continue. But again, there seems to be like the money issue and the health issue kind of thing. So we're going to kind of manage this conversation in those two aspects. We're going on our first break. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today is health. Let your will be known. We have to let our will be known. If not, who knows what's going to happen, right? Nobody's. I had a brief conversation with my dad on his way to Mexico. He spent 6 months out of the year in Mexico. And, even though I think it's somewhat easy, it's really not. There's a little resistance to talk about death and how you want to, what you want done in case you cannot make decisions on yourself and prolonging your life, CPR and all kind. Do not resuscitate, as it's more technical term. There's a lot of things. Lupe, you kind of have gone through some of these processes, and that was the main reason why I really wanted your input. And you have, I believe, some questions.
Well, I not so much questions, but things that I think people need to know and be clarified through a legal brain. Recently, and even during my tenure as associate director for advocacy at AARP, people would question me or would tell me that they didn't have to do anything else because they had a power of attorney. Well, there are things that end with the power of attorney, and I really would like for our friend here to clarify that.
This is very important. Yes. Yeah. So the power of when does a power of attorney end?
Well, I think one thing we should understand is when the power of attorney begins.
Okay.
So the power of attorney can be what's called springing, which means it comes into being when the person is no longer able to make their own decisions, or it is effective immediately, meaning this is a person you trust and you're giving them permission to act as your power of attorney, even when you're saying they can go behind your back, but you trust this person is usually a child or a brother, sister.
Let's elaborate on the process. So it can be any paper, a white piece of paper, or it can be a more formal one if they go to the attorney generals. And I'm sure there's going to be other companies that will offer that. Can you elaborate, any one of you, as to the actual process of a power of attorney? How simple or how complicated can it be?
Well, to fill out our packet, it's actually not difficult at all because we made our forms with FAQs, frequently asked questions. We included the step-by-step on how to fill them out. Our whole goal for this packet is that you don't have to go to an attorney unless you want legal advice.
Of course.
And when you fill out the power of attorney for both mental and health care, you do need a witness, or you could go to a notary public. So usually we tell people, you can get that at a bank if you don't have a witness. A witness can be someone that is taking care of you, and it can be someone that you know.
It cannot be.
Yeah, that's correct. But
let's elaborate a little bit more. So So you need to select someone that you trust, and that person cannot be, again, a family member. What
Right.
else?
They can't be a family member, and they cannot be taking care of you.
Okay. Or have an interest in anything related to
Exactly.
you.
And they can't be someone who, right, has an interest when you die to receive something.
Right. Okay. So basically, what? So you're basically designating another person to make decisions for you when you cannot make them for yourself.
Correct.
What sort of decisions does that include or could include?
Well, for the healthcare power of
Right.
attorney, it's things like what kind of treatment do you want? Because everyone has different religious views, different opinions on medicine. So that's why it's important to fill this out. Because if you don't believe in artificial, nutrition and artificial, like CPR, then why have that done to you?
Is the person doing the power of attorney communicates verbally those things to the person being, or can it also be done in writing, or that's when the living will comes in?
So we tell people, when you fill this out, make sure that you are talking to your representatives. Make sure they know that you chose them to be making those decisions for you. Not only that, but you should also be talking to your doctor while you fill out these forms. So
Right.
they know. They should also have a file at their doctor's office.
The living will, I understand that you have to kind of make copies and make sure that the people that need to know about this has copies.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, I tell them they should be making copies of the whole packet.
Okay.
They need to be making copies for your representatives and your doctor. And you can also send them in to the Secretary of State. And you can keep your originals.
What would happen if someone does not have a power of attorney and they are unable to make their own decisions?
So legally, the doctors will have to go to the spouse first, and if they don't have a spouse, then afterwards they go to a child, or like an adult child. Then after that, if there's no adult
Now,
child,
why is this process necessary? To find out who could make decisions even though a power of attorney was not in place?
Well, the power of attorney is, for financial and for decision making. If you are at the point where you're incapacitated and you can't make your own decisions, the process is you have to go to court and apply to become the person's guardian or conservator. Very expensive process, and it takes time. I get calls all the time. For example, last week I got a call from a young lady whose grandfather was in a nursing home. He was not doing well, but for some reason she did not have the ability to remove him from the nursing home because she felt he wasn't getting the proper care. Because he had nothing in place, she was going to have to file a guardianship. It was, thousands of dollars at that point, because you're talking about filing things with the court and going to the court.
So this is when there's no power of attorney in place. So now you have to go to court to pretty much ask a
Obtain a
judge
guardian.
to assign somebody
Right.
who is deemed the proper person to make those
your
hard,
decisions.
tough
Exactly. And it's a very expensive process that could be avoided. And in this young lady's situation, her grandfather died before they could even file the guardianship.
When you say
for him.
expensive, is that lawyers' fees primarily?
Well, I mean, in court, you have to file
court.
court fees, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, now let's come back, because let's devote this whole second segment to the issue of power of attorneys and living wills, because what sort of considerations it should be discussed in that difficult conversation in terms of a living will? What kind of things can be included in a living will that are important?
Yeah, so in the living will, you can choose where you want your body donated to. There's different things that you can choose. It could be to research, for education, for transplants. It can.
If you want to be a organ donor,
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how about like autopsy or where you want to be buried, if you want to be cremated, all those kinds of things go in a living will?
That's correct. And in the healthcare power of attorney, you actually put on there if you want an autopsy or if you want your representative to make that decision when it comes to it.
Okay.
Importance of all of these is that sometimes family members do not agree on what the outcome should be for the person, and it creates not only breaks between the family, but it can also create some legal situations that can be very costly.
So it's important again to have that conversation to make sure
Well-
they explicitly say what their wishes are.
Number one, something you can do in the living will is, like, let's say, for example, you suffer from cancer or something terminal along those lines, and you get in a car accident, you're in a coma. Well, you can choose to be resuscitated for anything but the cancer, right? So if it comes to cancer, you may not want to be an artificial means. You get pneumonia and you have to be kept alive on artificial means for a week. You can elect that. So you can elect what ailments you choose to be resuscitated or not. And something that Lupe just brought up that's very important is if you don't have the conversation with your agent can disregard and you say, yes, do that. And that can cause a problem. For example, if two siblings know, well, this was David's wish that this happened, and the other sibling could be upset because he doesn't agree. So you need to have those frank conversations while you're filling out these forms.
So obviously the research is going to be critical for the person. Hopefully they have kids, children that are going to help them to kind of know all the considerations so that when they do write that will, they include everything that they want, because it could be very, very specific, right,
Absolutely.
Lucia?
And not only that, but we tell people sometimes, usually they think of, okay, who's going to be my representative? First of all, they always usually say, okay, well, my mom or my dad or my husband. But we tell them, you know what, if you don't think that they're going to be making those decisions that were in your best interest, the ones that you chose, then you might want to choose someone else who does have those interests, because, they're going to be probably thinking emotionally, and you want them to be thinking how you would have wanted.
If somebody already has in place this power of attorney and they want to change it or they want to start a new one, what's the concepts there?
So we tell them, go ahead and create a new packet completely, because we understand that people's views change, or maybe they wanted to change their representative. So go ahead and create a whole new packet, but make sure on the original packet, you go ahead and X every page and also put the date on there and put void. And on the new copy that you created, make sure that your doctor has a new one and that your new representatives have a new one too.
Is it wise to keep the two versions, even the one that was replaced, together just in case?
You could, yeah, okay. you could if that's what you'd like, okay. But it's not. You don't have to.
Right, but again, living wills, very, very detailed, and they have to include. We have to go on another break. It goes pretty fast, so we'll continue this conversation. We're going to be moving to the money issue, the estate planning aspects. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection, and the subject today is health. Let your will be known. We are talking about this critical thing. Life has become very sophisticated, let's admit it. We live in the 21st century, and now we're being forced to think about things that our great-grandparents and grandparents probably didn't have to think and deal with. Today we have a lot of stuff that we have to worry about, the decisions on our health, decisions on how we want to be taken care of when we are in a hospital, when we die, the burial, the funeral. If we have money, we have assets. What's going to happen with them once we just die? And a lot of times we avoid this conversation. So that's why we did this show as an introductory show. I think we're going to address these matters again, but I just wanted to bring in the subject just to kind of break the ice and start. But I promise that we will do more shows on this subject. Let's now move to the finances. Can you, Attorney Perez, help us understand the different scenarios that may involve decision-making and having legal documents in place?
Well, basically everything that you own or you get throughout your life, you need to have some sort of plan for. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's going to go through a process called intestacy, where
Can you repeat that word?
so someone who passes away who does not have anything in place is termed legally to die intestate.
Yeah. It's even difficult to pronounce it.
And even hurts, right? Even
Spanish,
hurts. Like
in
it says,
Spanish,
oh
it
my
says
God.
intestado. Intestado. So it's difficult. Say it again. Say it again, and just kind of explain that concept.
Intestate. So that's someone who dies
Intestate.
without a will or any formal documents directing.
So does that
people.
mean that then the courts get involved to kind of decide?
Right? It has to go through probate.
And that's another word. Can you repeat
Probate.
that?
Probate.
That verb doesn't tell me a lot. I look it up online, but it's a legal process by
It
which
is.
decisions are made for assets and other things.
So
correct?
the probate is an area of the court, a division of the court that deals with people's death and the administration of their estates. If you die, when you pass away, your will would have to be probated, or if you die without a will, you need to go to the probate court and request that they distribute your assets through the laws of intestacy, which is for people
So
who
it
die
can get
intestate.
complicated if you don't have things in place. So we're talking about bank accounts,
Bank accounts,
IRAs,
everything, yes.
401ks. So if you have any of these
Houses.
houses, real estate, vehicles, pretty much everything.
I think
And
we
you know-
need to add a little bit more because everything means everything.
Right.
And what I'm saying is furniture, jewelry,
absolutely.
Wow.
guns, collections for stamps collections, whatever. I mean, everything means
You will leave a
everything.
problem if you don't do it.
Yes,
and we've
because-
seen it a lot.
Yes, because
Yeah.
people see these things. There's a lot of emotions that we're talking about, right? And I want maybe I want to fight with my brother over my dad's gun collection, right? And it may be worth nothing, maybe, but it's worth for us a lot. And families go to battle in court just for something like that, and they spend a lot of money because, well, I want my dad's gun collection. I don't want my brother to keep it, right? And those things cost a lot of problems and money.
And sometimes what people believe is that they're saving money by doing it a different way. For example, people tend to put people in their deed of trust, whatever it is for their home, and it doesn't necessarily resolve the question if the property is over a certain amount of money, because what it does is they're going to end up paying taxes on it, which if they had put it on the will, the person would not have been liable for taxes. So there's also the misconception that a power of attorney survives death, and it does not. And so people need to understand
Okay,
that.
can you repeat that again?
The power of attorney does not survive death. In
What
other
does that
words,
mean?
What it means is if you have a power of attorney, whether financial, health power, once you are dead, that power of attorney is no longer in effect. The
Very,
person
very
is gone,
important,
and you
yes.
need to know how to deal with whatever is
So
left.
what kicks in if once a power of attorney ends?
your will, your trusts, whatever sort of estate planning documents you have.
So
that deal
will
with your
and
death.
living will it's for decision making while you're still alive, correct?
A living will is right when we think of when we say do not resuscitate,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
And then if they have a will,
will.
then that's after the person dies.
right, a last will and
Okay,
testament.
so let's be kind of practical
It's
here.
I think
Go
it's
ahead,
just
Gonzalo.
trust, and I'm not an attorney, and attorney can help me with this, but the trust will have a living. Most of the trust, well done, will have a living will inside the trust, and we will have powers of attorney. So it's easy if you say you're listening and say, well, what do I need? Do I need a will? What do I need? I normally ask these questions. Do you have kids? You need a trust, not a will. You need a trust. And a trust will have more teeth. In what I'm trying to say is
Just briefly, what are the components of a trust?
well, that's some question
Okay.
for the attorney. But let me just
Yes, by all means.
if you say like I don't know what should I get? Do I want to save some money? Let me just this is the thing really easy, and it's not a rule or anything. It's just easy to make decisions. You have a kids, you need a trust. You have a house, you need a trust, and you have more than $50,000 in assets, you need a trust. If you answer yes to any of those questions, I will go ahead and recommend to say just do a trust, not just a will. Go ahead and invest in a trust because it's going to help you and your family save a lot of headaches.
Okay, so now you have a will and a trust. Can you elaborate on that, Attorney
Sure,
Perez?
sure. So the whole process is called an estate plan.
Estate
So if
plan.
you were
Good.
come to my office,
Now we're landing.
right? So the whole process is an estate plan, and if you receive an estate plan, you will get a binder of documents, and it will be a complete plan of what to do in your incapacity and upon and after your death, which includes your powers of attorneys, will, living will, trust. All of those documents are separate documents, but an estate plan encompasses all of that.
Okay,
It
so
is
let
your
me,
plan.
just for the sake of understanding, in your packet with the Attorney General, you have what is called life. What can you repeat that name?
So the whole packet, which consists of different forms, is called Life Care Plan.
Okay, so the life care plan has to do with health again.
Yes.
And your estate plan, can we kind of separate that, or am I getting it wrong?
No, I mean your estate plan includes everything. So it includes your life care plan. It includes
Okay.
it includes everything.
So a estate plan would include the aspects
right.
of.
We provide our
okay,
clients.
got it.
We do that process for clients
Right,
as well.
and what would be the process to do an estate plan? They would have to go to the office of an attorney.
It depends on the attorney. For me, I would meet with you. I understand what your assets are, what your concerns are, what your family dynamics are, and then we create a estate plan based on whatever your individual needs are or your family's individual needs.
Do attorneys charge on a one-time basis that you created and it's over, or there's like a plan that people buy, or how does that work? I just want to give information
Sure.
enough so people know, because these things can be very complicated and many people may prefer to go see an attorney and just get it over with. You know?
So some attorneys will charge an hourly rate.
Okay.
And some attorneys charge a flat fee. I charge all flat fees in my office.
Okay.
for
So you
everything I do,
prepare
so-
it, it's done. And now, once you do that, what are the scenarios that could trigger changes?
Well, I always say keep in contact and do an annual review.
Okay.
For your estate plan, number one, because laws might change. Okay. So as we know now, we're having a complete administration change right now with Trump's administration. So you want to make sure that those laws, the laws that your estate plan was created under, are still valid. Moreover, you also want to ensure that your life is not changing, right? So if, to the extent you have more children or you have grandchildren and you want
definitely.
to include them in your will, then you want to do that as well. You may have changed your mind with regards to your living will documents.
So
anytime there's a change in your life, that needs to be reflected in your will.
So the attorney takes care of the legal things. Does it include a financial advisory thing or just the legal? Or both?
No. So for example, attorneys do the estate plan, but if you want to plan for your future or that sort of thing, then I would.
All right, so that's where the financial advisor comes in.
Yeah, there's we're talking about different documents, and you're right. So the estate plan will come in the binder with different things, power of attorney and all that. The thing that we have not touched is the guardianship. And whenever you start saying everybody should do it, right? For example, I have one because I have kids. That's kind of what trigger having a trust, right? And guardianship is really important because even if you want to give something, for your kids, or your kids are the beneficiaries for your house, your IRS or assets or whatever, if they're a minor, it doesn't matter what the document says. They need to assign a custodian or a guardian for that kid in order to that kid to receive the money.
Who assigns that custodian?
Well, when you're doing your estate plan, you
so
say
you're basically saying, I have these kids that are underage, so I'm assigning this person.
Well,
just in case.
hopefully you do. If you don't have an estate plan and you have a child, and God forbid you're in a car accident and pass away, you lose the right to make that decision, obviously. And then the court selects who they think might be the best person to raise your child, which may not be the person you would have selected to do so.
Now, you're talking about a estate plan packet. What if someone is it possible to still take care of these things individually, like make arrangements for your bank accounts? Will it be safe if you just say you assign a beneficiary for your bank account, you assign a beneficiary for your IRA, your 401k? So you're basically kind of doing it in pieces. Is that also? I'm not saying recommended, but it's doable.
It's doable, absolutely.
So you can assign a beneficiary for your
you can
bank
have a
account,
payable
your
upon
IRAs.
death clause on your.
Okay, how about the house? How can you, the house, a house that you may own?
Sir, so in Arizona law, you can have what's called a beneficiary deed.
Okay.
So a beneficiary deed means the moment that you pass away, the title of your house is transferred to whoever is listed.
And that
which is
the
different than what
beneficiary deed.
Guadalupe was saying. That's different because what she was saying is that I have the name of my daughter or whatever on the deed
So
at
it's
the same
a separate
time.
document.
It's a different thing.
It's not that you add a person to the title deed, but you file a separate document to for that.
Because what you have to remember is that doing it this way, also not only do you give that person complete access to your asset, you also put that person in the position that should they have a financial problem, say they're being sued by somebody, that asset is going to count as part of their estate.
Right.
And that's very dangerous. There's also, I think, some other instances where especially young people really need to think about what they want to do, what the outcome in case of a tragic happening is with their children. Sometimes we have mixed families who have children from the father or the mother, and then joint children. And
Right.
people sometimes treat them as they're all equal. Well, if you didn't do something about that, the outcome could be extremely onerous.
Now, let's also remember that every state may have different rules, correct? So we're talking about Arizona. There could be variations
Yes.
from state to state. So each person has to get educated on the rules of that particular state where they are. And if they live in different states, they might want to file these forms in different states. I kind of did a little research on that. We'll take our last break. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is the last segment of this important topic, health. Let your will be done and let your will be known and accomplished. I want my will to be done. I took a trip a couple years ago, and before I left, I was getting ready to jump on my vehicle, and I wrote a letter giving my daughter all, if I cannot make a decision, I'm not here. But now I'm realizing that may have had no value whatsoever. Attorney, would you say that?
Arizona does recognize what's called a holographic will, which means
even
if
though
it's
there was
written
no witnesses.
Right, it's called a holographic one. Has to be in your handwriting.
So
that's
signed
not
it and
advisable. But in an
it's
emergency,
not the best thing, but
right.
It might work. Okay, but we don't recommend that. We recommend more planning than that, right? Let's give it back to each one of you, and just kind of like in closing this last segment. And again, this show was not meant to give you all the answers. We really want to get you to think and get you to realize that there's a lot of things involved, and it's not going to be an easy thing. So we need to do a little bit of research. The conversation needs to start, etc. So, Lucia, from the Attorney General's, kind of like in closing, how can one start all this process?
Well, right now they can go onto our website and find this packet. Our website is www.azag.gov. They can find this form in both English and Spanish. They can also request one from our office, and I'll actually give out my personal phone number from work. That is 602-542-8084. They can request one from me. I can send them as many packets as they need. Sometimes they need one from each family member, and these packets are for free.
And now, and you brought some, and I went
Absolutely.
into the website.
Yeah.
It's great information. Obviously, we want to make clear that in Arizona, these are not like quote unquote the officials. You're just making it available. There's other packets if they wanted to select them, but I thought it was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is to start learning about it and gradually start the conversation. Now, Gonzalo, you mentioned the word action. So what the action looks like in your view, Gonzalo, as a financial advisor?
Well, a couple of things. I will go ahead and first just review your beneficiaries that you currently have in different assets, your IRAs, your 401ks, your life insurance, just to see what's going on, in there. And I will always suggest to talk with an attorney. There are other options. Yes, you can go even online and do it in different websites. But life is really complicated, and life is not just it's not cookie cutter. So take action, talk with someone like Alejandro or any other state attorney, and to give you some guidance. It's important. We think we're saving money by doing it on a napkin, right? But you're not really doing that. You're hurting your family and all that. And we work really hard to create this estate, right? Think about it. 30 years working, putting money into your 401k, your pension, bringing your house, and to be gone in just in a snap of the fingers, that's scary. Right. So it's just take action, talk with someone, and your neighbor is not an attorney, okay? And and Google is not an attorney either. Okay,
These are legal things. These are very, very
Yes, this is really important. So just talk with someone with the correct licenses to do that, and don't go to the a notary they just go and stamp something, right?
Lupe, again, I really wanted to get your input. If you don't mind, what actions have you already taken in terms of what we're talking about?
Well,
and you don't have to go into, you just go as much detail as you feel
Thank you.
comfortable.
When you spoke about the napkin, I kind of shuddered to think of what we did when we were young in saving money. We just wrote it out by hand. And now I look at it and I think, oh my God, thank God nothing bad happened during these years, right? But yes, originally we had a will. And I thought that was enough, and then decided...
What you would also call a testament,
A
right?
testament,
Okay,
exactly.
Un testamento.
And then as time went on, you retired, maybe you pay your house off, or you have, as you say, other assets. It's important to think about the trust. And I think especially, even though it's important for people at my age, I think it's just as important for young people.
Yes.
Because the decisions about your children, you want to make them. You don't want to let a court that doesn't know your family dynamics make them.
Right.
Also, a will or in the trust, a will also kind of be able to handle difficult family relationships dynamics that can be handled. Just ask and pay for it.
And now, Attorney Perez, I don't want us to finish the show without you saying something about couples, because there's a lot of divorces in these days. I think we all acknowledge that. What is the state of Arizona about the 50-50? There's a principle there.
Arizona is a community property state, which means that anything that is part of the community, which is the marriage, is a split 50-50.
So if one dies, the survivor only gets 50%, right?
Well,
Not
it
100?
depends on what's left. I mean, it depends, for example, if the husband doesn't want to leave the wife anything, then yes, she would be entitled to her community property share. So he can't leave 100%
So that's another concept, right?
Well, I mean,
where
that's
you
just
can
part of
set
community property.
Separate assets, if you will. And obviously, I'm sure that many do it like that, where they have certain things when they come to the marriage that they may want to keep
So usually
separate.
with an attorney, I always say the only things that you can keep separate are, for example, inheritance. If one spouse gets an inheritance, that doesn't become part of the community property. The only thing that I would recommend is when they go see an estate planner, to not have any secrets. I mean, I've had people who, for example, I've had one husband say, I really want to care for my children. And then I talked to the wife privately and she goes, I'm not going to leave them anything when he dies. So, you want to have those. Once that happened, I can no longer represent
This is
them.
another layer, another level of conversation. The family dynamics, two differences of opinions between the couple. I mean, that's why it's so critical to start the conversation, start thinking about it, and start taking action.
Right. So, and then my closing thought would be that's exactly right, to take action, to see someone. It might cost you $2,000-$3,000 to set up an estate plan, but that's going to save you a ton of money, a ton of grief, and it's going to save your loved ones quite a bit of grief and confusion when you die. So it just provides you a peace of mind, and you can rest confident knowing that your will be done.
Is there a lot? I mean, in your profession, I am sure that there's a lot going on, a lot of, I assume, and sorry to use this word, a lot of business, I assume, because this is an important thing, and I'm sure many people are taking action.
I mean, it's busy, but I mean, it's not as many people as should be.
You would prefer
doing
to be
it.
busier, right?
I would prefer to be busier.
Not only for the money, but that would be a sign that people are.
It's something I'm passionate about for doing, because number one, I spent a lot of time as a litigator watching people rip each other apart, and it gave me the idea that if we plan these things ahead of time, we can avoid that sort of fighting and that sort of costly litigation. Can easily cost you $1,000 to $200,000.
David, it's super
$1,000 to $200,000. That's unbelievable.
It's super
Gonzalo.
important, because it's super important. And what I'm saying is, every time that I have a new client, I ask, do you have a will or a trust? No. okay, after we are done with doing setting up accounts and all that, next stop is
So you
the
always
attorney.
advise them financially, but then you ask the right questions to kind of trigger in them that they need to also take care
Think
of those.
about it. I have to, because if
course.
somebody comes on my door and say, "Hey, I'm the beneficiary," and show me, I mean, I'm sorry, but show me a document. No, it's my dad. No, I believe you, but but where's the document? And I can't do anything, and until I get a proper document.
Yeah, and Gonzalo mentioned it. You work your whole life to take care for your children, to take care for your family, and they deserve that you have something in place that's going to continue to do that when you're no longer able to do that.
Now, one of the purposes of this show is to highlight Latinos and to highlight and celebrate Latino accomplishments. Do you know other Latinos that are in this field of financial advisors and then estate planners?
Well, I don't know too many Latino
Okay,
estate
because they don't
planners
have to
out
just,
there.
so we need more, you think?
Absolutely.
Even though they'll be
Yes,
your competitors?
please. Yes, please. Yeah, no, it's there's a shortage of advisors in general. If you add the Latino and they can speak or know the culture and all that, it's a very really rare breed, and we need more.
We have to celebrate all of you. Congratulations! Thank you for representing us well. I think I always like to highlight, people that have, accomplish, your education. Now you're a professional, so congratulations and thank you. Lupe, you wanted to add something? We're almost out of time.
Just to think about financial planning, people think that I don't have enough money to do that, but you do. If you have a pension, you have Social Security, you might have a 401k. It's important to plan early.
So I would, again, two areas: the scope of health, the scope of end of life, the scope of arrangements, but then the scope of finances. There can be combined, there can be related.
I would keep it together
Right.
as much as possible.
But at least there's two categories of things to think about, and then you obviously can combine them. Kind of.
My advice for every single thing that we were talking about is know how does your decision engine head works. As Guadalupe was saying, you need to understand yourself, how you're going to behave financially and health-wise, whatever, right? So to start planning, you need to start from there. From how do I make decisions? Am I a dreamer? I just wishful thinking. What am I? And find a coach for everything that you do. Find a coach. We hire a coach for different things. A coach will say, "Hey, watch out! This is a pitfall, right? Just make sure that you're doing this," and can help you with that. Always find somebody that can help you out.
Great. We have come to the end of this show, and like I said, we will be addressing this issue more in the near future, because I'm in the community a lot. I hear what the people are going through, and even for myself, I do a lot of research, but I have nothing in place other than beneficiaries in bank accounts, beneficiaries in 401ks, etc. But now I realize that there's way more than that, so we're going to have to take some action. We want to thank you for joining these programs. This was AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Have a great day.